In this video, we're going to be talking about your domain acceptance rate. This is when you submit domains into the premium marketplace, how many of them get accepted. Before we jump into this conversation, it's important to remember that we do have a highly curated marketplace. So our typical acceptance rate is between 6 to 8%. So expectations are important when it comes to this process. But here's some tricks to getting your acceptance rates as high as you possibly can. Number one is understanding that we are a brandable domain marketplace. There are other types of domains that have value. For example, early on in my career, I did some geo SEO. So Barrington Painters and some other different locations in my area. We did some work to get those sites high in Google, and that went pretty well. Those domains and many other geolocations and other SEO focused domains can have value, but they're not brandable. So think about names that you would put on a startup, a new product. Think about our top industries, agencies and food and real estate. What type of names do those businesses, products, brands want to use? Those are brandable. The next thing, once you understand who we are and what type of valuable domains we're accepting, is to realize that it's important to love the journey. You're not going to find tricks that are going to make you a perfect, amazing, domainer, and everything that you find gets sold because this trick or that trick. So here are some things that I always recommend. One, follow Squad Help sales. We'll show you a lot of the sales that come through Squad Help, see what's going on. Now, one of the things that you don't want to do, if you see a name that, it doesn't mean like take a tiny variation of that name that's sold and put that into the marketplace. That's what I'm not talking about. I'm talking about looking for trends and using names to inspire wholly different and unique, but still inspired from what is already selling. I like to follow lists, unicorn startups. Y Combinator is a big accelerator. So they're working with a lot of pretty successful startups. So these other accelerators and incubators, you can look at the names that are coming out from there. So just follow along. There's so many different ways. You'll develop your own styles and you'll develop your own your own philosophies by doing the research and getting engaged. Kathleen and I both work on a lot of branding projects, and you'll see, we don't always see exactly the same things. She one of the things that I know that she likes is she likes a lot of the she likes a lot of abstract names. I like them too, but I think there's some difference there. So develop, don't be afraid to develop your own style and find your focus. We have a ton of educational resources on our blog and elsewhere. There's some really good content on our YouTube. So just take a look, keep engaged, and you'll learn a lot. So focus on the bigger picture rather than tips and tricks. Would you agree, Kathleen?
Definitely. I think a lot of people tend to look at, what other companies are doing and try to, just copy paste it instead of looking at overall trends and trying to find something unique that works for them.
Right. So it's not just looking at the individual name and tweaking it in a minor way. It's using that as an impetus to create your own unique names. That's a great point. Sweet. Okay, so here are some thoughts on creating great names. Number one is a powerful name. So powerful to me means things like it may have strong emotional resonance, like green peace. Peace is a really emotional word. Work joy, Triumph motorcycles. All of those brands work really well. Maybe some sort of a story element. I always think of Burt's Bees when I think of a story. It tells you all about Bert. It leads to this whole brand conversation, which was really fun. Something that's fun and cute can be a great name. MailChimp, Squatty Potty, Piggly Wiggly. Memorable visuals. I love the name Red Bull. It pops into your mind. There's a company and it's in a funny space where you don't think about needing a great brand, which is a propane. They sell propane, and it's Blue Rhino. That visual sticks into my head. I just think of a Blue Rhino, and I can't get rid of it. So that's a great way. If there's some sort of a relevant meaning, and we'll swing back to this in pragmatic, but if there's a meaning that is strong, that's another great way. Um, Next is synergy. So I just talked about Red Bull. Red Bull ties together and works really well. They complement each other. Bull on its own name, wouldn't be as strong as Red Bull. Red wouldn't be as strong, but Red Bull together tells that story. Bull is strong. Red is the color of power and intensity. So it tells a really nice brand story. So when you're putting, and this is one of the big ones, that I see a lot. Two good words that don't go together well. They don't, it's a big thing that we see a lot. Even if they create a tension or some sort of, it's not the, it's not exactly what you would typically think of when it comes to a name, something like lazy dog. There's kind of a tension and a dissonance there. That's still fine. What you don't want is things that don't make sense. My example here is blue defense. What's a blue defense? There's no,
There's no oomph. There's no
there's no
meaning.
oomph.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, you want that to come together. Pragmatic names are really good, and this is one of the things that people, I think, get a little confused on. What I'm not talking about is overly descriptive names. That's what goes back into SEO. They're not super brandable, oftentimes. But words like pay in the name, if you can, again, create that synergy and put something else strong with it, PayPal is a wonderful example. Chat is something that a lot of names will have when they have something to do with chat. And it can work really well as long as you have that snap with it. The second word can't be boring. Curb, key in the real estate industry. So you can find these pragmatic words that work really, really well. Let's go through a few more tips. All things equal, short is better. Importantly, all things equal. Short is not the be all and end all of naming. There's lots of great names that are 8, 7, 8, 9 characters, even a little bit longer once in a while, but definitely 7, 8 characters. But when you're looking at everything, if they're equivalent in all other ways, shorter is always going to trump that. One thing to think about when it comes to short, or that we always think, that we think about one technical thing with regard to 4 character domains, we are looking for still brandable. So there are like acronyms and just random 4-letter domains that do have value. Typically, we don't take those. So we're looking for some sound that can make sense within the 4-letter domain market. Number 2 is .com is still king. We do accept some other domains, some other extensions. Those are typically for real English words, popular phrases, things like that. Very, very, very strong names. If it's a blend, if it's a compound, those are probably only going to be accepted in domains, or in .com, excuse me. Pricing can be important. If your desired price is far outside of what other domains within that, other similar domains are priced, that can be one reason that your domains are getting rejected. So do be careful with that one. Usability is another important thing. In our next slide, I'll cover that more specifically, but at a high level, a name should be easy to say, it should be easy to spell, and it should be easy to remember. It's pretty simple. Kathleen, you can cover, talk a little bit to emotions.
Yeah. So when submitting domains and things like that, having some type of big idea or emotion behind the name always paints a bigger picture for it. So it just makes it more meaningful, and again helps potential buyers, visualize like what that name could be for them. So we've talked about that in past videos, time and time again, but always having some kind of key idea or concept behind a name is a great way
Right.
to, sell a domain.
Right. And this pivots into the description. If you can't, if it doesn't have a big idea, you're not going to be able to describe it and explain why it's really, really a great name. So if you can't, if you can't pitch it, I've said this before to our internal team, if you can't pitch it, it's probably not a great name. Why is it so powerful? And that comes back to big ideas a lot. This final point gets pretty technical, so I want to, stay at the high level. Types of names, we talk about this in some other videos, so as you dig deeper into the training, this one probably will start to make a little bit more sense. Types of names are things like compounds, two English words put together, Facebook, Snapchat, as opposed to blends. This is going to be two English words blended together. These are your Instagrams and your Groupons. You have misspellings, you have this and that. There's a whole host of naming types. And one of the things that I often talk about is don't mix your types. If you have a compound, don't add a misspelling. So, what's a good example? Lyft is a great name. It's a misspelling. But if you had, Mint Lift for a finance brand, and it was misspelled, then you're in dangerous territory. So when you're thinking about creating these names, try only to do one thing. Thinking that the ideal name in many situations is a single English word. That's the best, that's the gold standard in naming. So if you need to do anything else, which you typically do, and that's fine, but don't do a bunch of other things. Don't start layering and layering these techniques on so the name gets confusing. Does that make sense? Do you have any thoughts on that? I know it's pretty technical, so do you have any clarification, Kathleen?
No, that makes sense. I think if mixing types of names together just kind of, I feel like, makes a big mess of things. So it's
Right.
best
Don't
to,
make a mess.
yeah.
Okay. All right. A couple tasks that we like to talk about. This is within usability. Read to speak. If I see it on a piece of paper, am I going to be able to say it out loud? There's letters that have what we call ambiguous pronunciation. Sometimes if you look at it and you have an O, you don't know if it's a more short or a long sound. Sometimes we use Greek in blends, and there's some different odd vowels that you wouldn't know how to say. You have to be really careful to make sure, if I looked at this on a piece of paper, is it fairly easy to convert that into and understand what I'm trying to get at. Hear to spell, so that's the opposite. If I heard the name, am I going to be able to write it down? Speak to hear, so this is communication. Is there going to be some misunderstanding? This can happen a lot of times with like plays on words and things like that, where if you say it, it sounds like another word. It sounds like a common word. There's a cool brand. It's called Inner Peas. And this is a good example. Like, you really have to, and I think it works in this level, but you have to be careful with this because it sounds a lot like inner peace. And they did that on purpose, and it's kind of fun and cute. But it's on the border. If you go way too far with that, you have some big issues. And then contextual sound just means, does it sound good? Say the name out loud and make sure it has a good sound. In another video we did, we talked about a really cool name. I like this name. It was Hellman Spur. But when I said it, thank you for calling Hellman Spur. Hellman, they go together, and that's not a great name anymore. Conceptually, I thought it was really cool. It had some good symbolism, but in functional use, it falls apart. So these functional use tests can be really, really helpful. Hopefully, those principles are helpful, and you can use those to get a better acceptance rate, and get more domains listed in the Squat Health Marketplace. As always, reach back out if you have any questions. Our support team is definitely there to guide you through the process.